Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your breakfast bankroll for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. Our weekly trip down Route 3 to 93 to DK Nation. The one and only Julian Edlow blesses our studios as we get to do a little shop talking. It's funny. I think the Nets know Julian's coming in on Tuesday morning, and it just so happens that news breaks again from Durant's camp. And I know Julian's got a hard no on this, but I am right now on DraftKings, sir. And the Boston Celtics are plus 450 now to win the NBA title. The Clippers and Golden State plus 600, the Bucks plus 750, and I got to go all the way down to the Nets at plus 1400. So let's bring him in from Beantown himself, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
Yeah, Jeff. I mean, Durant's kind of holding strong on what he wants here, and the Nets kind of fired back in the sense of they're staying with their coach and management. So again, I'm going to hold strong like Kevin Durant in saying that the Celtics were 550 plus 550 before all this Durant news. So if they're plus 450 now, and part of this number is now moving because of the chance of Kevin Durant being in Boston, then it's just a bad number on the Celtics. They were the favorites before, and they're just larger favorites now. So I'm not saying they're not a team that doesn't have a great chance to win, but the number now that it's moved, a full dollar essentially on this Durant news in terms of what your payout would be. I think it's a bad price on the Celtics.
We've talked at length, and obviously I don't want this to be the topic of our show here, especially every week. I just find it, these NBA players now, they can just hold teams hostages. You sign the dotted line, you sign the contract, not Steve Nash, not the GM, no one. You're the one that signed it. And if things don't go their way, they just muscle their way out, a la Harden, a la Ben Smith, yada, yada, yada. We've talked at length. Maybe this was supposed to 2-3 weeks ago speed up the process for Miami or Toronto. Hey, guys, they're now offering Jaylen Brown. No one even flinched. No one flinched. So I think they're saying, hey, if the Celtics want to break up a team that got within 2 games of the championship for an aging Kevin Durant, then so be it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think they are looking to break up a young core for an aging Kevin Durant. And forget the aging part. What matters most to me is the contracts, and Durant's contract controlled for 4 years versus Brown for 2. But if Jaylen Brown is interested in coming back and playing with Jason Tatum, then that's the route that you want to go. You want to take the guy 10 years younger who's willing to re-sign. With Durant, you get him for 4 years, but ever since he bolted OKC, let's look at his history. He's a lot like Harden in terms of asking out of places. He leaves Golden. I mean, once you commit, he took a lot of heat for going to Golden State. Once you commit to that, though, then what's the point in leaving? And he did leave Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green for Kyrie to attach himself to Kyrie Irving, and it didn't work. And now he's got to look at leaving again. So who's to say that in 2 years Jason Tatum doesn't become the best player in the NBA and Durant's starts aging and is a number 2 there and doesn't like it and wants to ask out? Then you're in the same spot and you are trading Kevin Durant for something much lesser than what would then be a 27-year-old Jaylen Brown or whatever it may be. I love the moves that the Celtics made in adding Brogdon and Gallinari. They need one big, like a real traditional NBA center, rebounder, shot blocker that can eat up 15 to 20 minutes a night, play some 30-minute, maybe not too old of a guy because he needs to be able to play some 30-minute games when Gallinari and Horford rest in the regular season. Time Lord always needs his rest, but like all they are is a backup center away. They don't need to get fancy with looking to go to a Kevin Durant that's 9 years older than Jaylen Brown. that hasn't been that stable ever since he left OKC.
I don't often quote Colin Cowherd, but you just mentioned it. If you can't be happy with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if he wasn't necessarily happy. He just kind of got his. He obviously went to Golden State to get a ring, and it was completely lopsided when he was there. You know, the Cavs team that had a great series with the Warriors the first year the Warriors won, then had that amazing 7-game series the next year when the Cavs took it in 7. Like, those were competitive, good series. And then you got Durant there, and the combined score in the 2 NBA finals of the Cavs, LeBron's Cavs versus Kevin Durant's Warriors, was 8-1 Warriors. It was a sweep and a gentleman's sweep. Adding Durant to that mix was so lopsided that I think Durant felt it was almost too easy and then needed to go prove he could get one kind of as the main guy. Not that he wasn't the main guy because he won both finals MVPs, but without the deck being so stacked, and it didn't work. But I think that's why he left, not because he believed he couldn't keep winning in Golden State, I guess.
Well, I have to change gears here, Julian, and it's not. Listen, we could talk for hours about the Dead Sox. I'm not even going to bother you with that one. But
I'm on the Braves tonight.
Charlie ground
Rich Hill's in trouble. Charlie Morton's pretty good. Bullpen's not close. Braves have a good offense. I'm not a baseball guy, but I can figure this one out.
And just as long as Duran's in center field, you're good. You should start doing some props. Under, over,
how many drop balls?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how, I don't know how you justify trading Hunter Renfroe, who's like nothing special, but a solid home run hitter apparently at this stage in his career, for Jackie Bradley Jr., who all anybody ever talks about is his defense. And then he's not playing center field for a kid that somehow gets called all the way up to be your leadoff hitter that can't play defense, can't catch a ball, can't track a ball. It doesn't make sense to me. The whole roster, and then being buyers and sellers, the whole roster just doesn't make sense to me. You like Bloom in theory to kind of do what he did in Tampa, except with a big market and use money. And he's just gone full Tampa, which you don't have to do. It's Boston.
No, and they talked about Schwarber and Renfroe combined is like over 60 homers. That
yeah.
I think
didn't replace it. They didn't replace it.
I think there was more behind the Renfroe. I don't know if it was locker room, if it was him unleashing that cannon every too often, but just to get Jackie Bradley back was just and not going out and signing Schwarber. I had said in the spring training that I think they thought they were going to get the Japanese kid to play center field, and the Cubs swooped in and got him. So Bloom, I was the guy talking to all the Bostonians saying, hey, you were loving this guy when he beat the Yankees in the play-in game last year. Then you went ahead and you beat Tampa, and you made it to Game 6 against the Astros. That was the same Bloom. Now we're sitting in a year later. You don't go and re-sign Bogarts right now. You're leaving Devers out to dry. Oh, and by the way, both Evaldi and JD Martinez, who you're supposed to get prospects for, at least at the deadline, are still on your team.
Yeah, it was just a weird combination of buying and selling, but doing it to minimal degrees on both ends. You sold on Christian Vasquez, and now catcher becomes a position of need, but you don't sell on your rentals that would command a higher price than a Christian Vasquez. You buy on Tommy Pham and Eric Hosmer to fill positions of need, but they've been positions of need all season, and you didn't do anything to fill them. And the main thing I would say is just not paying Devers and Bogarts yet is telling, because you have that money in Boston and you're not using it.
All right, I know you're not deaf here. Down in Gillette, it sounds like the Bad News Bears. Now, I have so many people on social media reaching out. Jeff, I want to bet the under 8.5. Jeff, I want to bet the under 8.5. And just listening to the locals from 2 to 6 on 98.5, and then hearing Bedard go off on Monday. It's a shit show down there. What are you taking from all this madness?
Yeah, and I read some stuff. I forget who it was who it was from, but all the beats kind of have the same stuff. That the offense does look okay in 7-on-7. So this is offensive line related, or the offensive line would maybe be the number one thing in terms of what we're saying about the offense and just how poor it's been in training camp for the Patriots. It sounds bad. I didn't believe in them to begin with. I think Miami's clearly the second best team in the division. Miami has a tougher schedule. So I've been looking at, I'm not going to bet the Miami over at a juiced 8.5 or at 9 in terms of wins. I'm not going to bet the Patriots under 8.5 because I think they can get better as the season goes on and go 9-8. Like, I don't think that's crazy. I still think the best way to probably bet it is the Dolphins, and this is on DK Sportsbook. You can't get it many places. Is the Dolphins to finish second in the AFC East? You can bet, finishing position in the division. So the Dolphins at plus 175. Rather than lay like a minus 140 on over 8.5 wins for the Dolphins, that price difference I'm more comfortable with. But honestly, like the way I'm betting this, sometimes people get caught up in these preseason narratives and think it's going to last all season. Means means I have to bet the under 8.5 on the Patriots. What this means for me, I really don't think the Patriots are going to look good in this first game in Miami. Tua has a lot to prove. He's healthy. He has Tyreek Hill. He has Waddle. He has a huge upgrade on the offensive line for protection. He has the full starting defense returning. Tua's 3-0 against Belichick. I think Miami's and this Patriots start slow. They never look good early in hot Miami. Forget the season win total. I'll collect my pay on Sunday, September 11th, the day of week 1. Dolphins minus 2.5 at home against the Patriots. The Patriots, we know they build up and get better and can get stronger. I don't know if they're going to win 8 or 9 games. It's a coin flip to me. What I'm most confident in with the Patriots, I think Miami's going to beat them pretty good in week 1. Get in there, that D-line on the Pats O-line, put some pressure on Mac Jones. The run game apparently has looked awful, and Damian Harris was a piece they used a lot to kind of stay in games against Miami last year. So this is one where I think people hear the preseason noise and they're trying to think of how to play this in the futures market. I think we just have a way to play it in week 1. I'm more confident in Miami minus 2.5 week 1, and that's how I'll fade the Patriots for the season. We'll see about it after that.
We're sitting here on August 9th, Julian. We're if my math is correct, we're 18 days away from week 0. There's a handful of college games. The real college games don't start till the 1st and the 3rd. What do you do personally for DraftKings the next 2 to 3 weeks leading up to, let's just say, September, where, again, both NFL and college will be kicking off?
Yeah, it's all football prep, which is great. To have that time, we had, when I first started at DraftKings, we didn't have the bodies for MLB, and I was covering some MLB, which is clearing away my third sport. So to have the bodies now to cover that, and for me to be more prepared for football is awesome. So it'll just be more articles. In terms of football prep, things to look for, betting information that isn't necessarily a bet, as well as betting articles, NFL player props, NFL win totals. Today, actually, I'm going to have my first week 1 article. We want to get some week 1 stuff up for people to start getting prepared. It's about a month away. So I'll have 3. I'm on 3 week 1 plays. One of them is Miami Dolphins minus 2.5. That'll be in that article that comes out today. And then just college stuff. I have a lot more I like in the futures market, college wise, that I'll be putting out in article form than NFL. So it'll be a lot of future stuff for college football. But yeah, next month or so is all football futures and football plays for those week 0, week 1, week 2 games. And I'll have some NFL today.
Thoughts moving forward with the fiasco with Watson? I heard this morning that the under over will be 11 and a half games. That total has not moved. We talked last week. He's just walking around business as usual, no remorse, no nothing. It comes down 6 games. Everyone's happy. Um, have you looked into the Cleveland under over? Have you looked into that division? Are you more of the thought process that he's going to get double digit games to sit out suspended, and then Brissett's not going to be handling it, or you're just going to sit and wait and let it play out?
I'm done with it. I'm done with it. It's been too much, too many ups and downs over the years. Him not playing all of last season, getting paid, him getting traded and getting the largest guarantee in NFL history. He's going to get the whole season. He's going to get nothing. He's given 6 games. We're going to look at extending it. Too many moving parts, right? Like why do anything? Yeah, I don't. It's just something we've talked about a ton. I'm not going to get into the personal beliefs about what did or didn't happen and what he deserves. It's just too much of a mess of a situation where I've just kind of given up and I'm sitting back. Like, how much time have we wasted over the last year and a half talking about this? And he's still not on the field. We still don't know how long he's going to be off the field. We don't know what he's going to look like because he hasn't played in a football game in forever. It's just, I'm done wasting my time, I think.
Week 1 NFL preseason this weekend, and you'll see on social media, gambling, Twitter, some people sticking their necks out how this is the time to shine. Inside information on who's playing, who's not playing, yada, yada, yada. Will you have any skin in the game in any of these games, or is it just going to be a sit and watch?
No, I'll probably bet some of them small. I do like the old angle of, and this probably doesn't come into play this week, but it might. When you have a team playing starters for a quarter or a half, and they say we're going to give these guys a longer leash against a team that's going to be resting guys. So, if you're going to get a half or a quarter and a half of starters against backups, that's when you bet a first half line, even if the first half is 3 and the full game is 2, whatever. So I'll look for a couple of those situations if they present themselves. If I miss it and the number moves, then you just got to pass. You missed the boat. That's the way it is. 2 spots that I guess I have circled. The Ravens are up to whatever it is, 21 in a row preseason games that they've won under Harbaugh. He's a guy that cares. He cares about setting the tone and winning these games. So that's one that I've played in previous seasons. So might as well just kind of ride it until the wheels fall off of that one and they lose a game or 2 in the preseason. And then the second one, we're going from a guy in Harbaugh that really cares about preseason to a guy that could not care less about preseason, and that's Sean McVay, who lost every preseason game last year. The Rams averaged something like 11 points per game in the preseason, and they won the Super Bowl. So why are they going to start caring this year? He's never cared about preseason. They literally just run the air out of the ball and don't show anything that they have planned for the season. It's just they do what they need to do in practice, and they show nothing in preseason. It's like the games don't exist. It's just put the worst guys out there and give them as little chance of getting injured as possible. So unders in Rams games have been something that have jumped out to me.
And all the hoopla that the Patriots have just looked like, whatever you want to use for an adjective. The Giants opened at 1. Now they're up to 2 at Westgate as we speak. Any thought process? Is this where Bill throws the wool under our eyes and they come out and they actually look good?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's not I like the Giants. I think we have them at 7 wins at DraftKings Sportsbook now. I liked them over 6.5 when it sat there. I think they can be a decent team. I don't think they're anything great. I'm not willing to risk or take a guess here on which team between the Patriots and Giants is going to look better. The Patriots could come out and look better than we're hearing in practice. They could come out and look exactly like we've been hearing and not play well. The Giants, new coaching regime as well. It's Joe Judge against his former team. There's just too many moving parts here. This is what 9 out of 10 preseason games are, a spot that you're not going to figure out, not going to want to risk. So yeah, not betting that game. Well, I'm curious to see how it looks, but I'm not betting it.
Last NFL question.
Sorry, I'll interrupt you real quick. Unless something happens where the Patriots or Giants say we're going to play the starters the first half or the first quarter, and the other team says we're sitting all our guys, then it suddenly becomes a spot.
Agree. Last NFL question before we wrap up the last 5 to 7 minutes on some college football. The talk of Stafford and the elbow, something I heard he dealt with last year. McVay's taking it real slow. He's doing his stuff over here. He's not going to press him. Well, Buffalo now -2.5 September 8th on the opening Thursday night game, which probably.
Oh, wow. I missed that move.
Yes. And I was going to say, it sounds like it might go to 3. Now, listen, I was in on Buffalo at a pick. I was in at Buffalo -1. But if you're going to give me the Super Bowl champs and a field goal at home on opening night, I'm taking it.
Yeah, it's a weird spot. I don't have much of a feel for that game yet. I do lean Buffalo. Just because you can have that hangover spot coming off the Super Bowl, and maybe Stafford's a little dinged up. Bills come out hungry after the really, really tough loss at Kansas City in the playoffs. Just feels like that type of spot where the Bills set the tone and say early, like, hey, this is I know you guys won last year. This is our year. Whereas the Rams can have their guard down a little bit, the emotional night of, celebrating. You're still celebrating last year when you're trying to come out and defend this year. And it just kind of always goes that way, that the hungry team coming off the loss is the one that comes out with the energy. So that's just kind of nothing fancy there. That's just kind of a classic Bills spot. I have no idea if Stafford's really hurt or not. We're not going to see him in the preseason, so we'll find out on that Thursday night game, kind of what the deal is. But that just goes back to maybe Rams unders in the preseason. If Stafford's got an elbow, now you got to maybe think about protecting your backup a little bit more. Now you're playing even more third stringers in games that you're not even trying in anyway. Like the Rams under, it just kind of ties back to a preseason Rams under to me more than an opening night thought until we get a little bit closer to opening night. But yeah, I lean the spot sets up Bills for sure.
We've talked at length the last few weeks in the college football. You put your parlay together. You've talked about Utah. In the last 5 minutes as we're wrapping up here, any more college football homework, any more teams that are starting to fly on your radar that you're starting to hear, good, bad, ugly, that you're starting to, someone that you weren't on, that all of a sudden you're like, wow, this sets up pretty well?
I've bet a few unders over the last week. A couple of them I've talked about on air. I haven't written any of them up yet. I'll probably get an article out on these, and I don't even have the current prices in front of me. This Nevada is the one that's moved the most. Nevada under 5 wins. I bet it at -120. I think I went to -160. They're not going to get to 6-6. They're not getting to 6-6. They're tied for returning the fewest starters in the country at 6. They have a complete turnover in the coaching staff, first-year head coach. They lost the quarterback, Carson Strong, to the NFL. They lost their top 7 pass catchers. They have nobody back. 45 players, I think, that played a snap for them last year are gone. Did I talk about this one on here already? I don't even remember. I've talked about it too many places.
No, you prefaced it, I think, on our last show.
Okay. So Nevada under 5. In the same conference, I'll go Hawaii under 4.5. Hawaii, and I'll say this, Hawaii plays 13 games, not 12. So we're taking an under on a team that gets an extra game. But I think that's how poor they're going to be. They're tied for Nevada, 6 starters returning. They have nobody coming back on this team, no talent. Timmy Chang, the former quarterback from Hawaii, first-year head coach. I expect him to be a little bit out of the loop. It's almost the same cap as Nevada, to be honest, except they're going to be probably even worse because they play 13 games, and we're going down to 4.5 here rather than 5.5. But if Hawaii's an underdog in their first 2 games, if they lose both of those first 2 games, like there's a touchdown dog to Vanderbilt, whose win total is 2.5. at home, Hawaii at home, touchdown underdog. If they lose those first 2 games that they're dogs in, it's going to be tough to see them getting to 5 wins to cost us there. And then the other one that I've really warmed up to is Georgia Tech under 3.5 in the ACC. They open up 20-something point dogs to Clemson. They have 1 gimme on their schedule, and then they play Duke, which they should win, but they might not win. So I'm going to give them both those games, and now they're sitting at 2-10. They're going to be dogs in every other game. So that gives us wiggle room for an upset somewhere in there to get to 3-9. I don't see how 4-8. I don't see how 4-8 happens when you look at that schedule. I know the ACC is nothing special, but the teams in there that they have to play and the spots they have, Georgia Tech just isn't going to be good enough. They're going to win 2. They're going to win 2 games, and then you need a pretty decent upset to get to 3. And we're looking at 2 big upsets to lose the bet. I like it under 3.5.
I'll close with this. You hearing any rumblings about the locals and BC Eagles? We were just talking ACC. Any quick thoughts about them?
BC is a tough team for me to get a handle on. My initial reaction after I bet over 7 last year, and they went 6-6, but Dracovic, the starting quarterback, missed 4 games. They started 4-0. When they opened 6 this year, is just go over. 6-6 feels kind of like a floor. How can they not get the same record they had last year, or maybe exceed it if they stay healthy? Really good tight end, really good receiver play, good running back play, and they have a very strong quarterback. Defense should be okay. Then, the offensive line, the turnover on the offensive line is the big issue. And that concerns me. So now, I think 6-6 is the most likely outcome. I think 7-6 is 7-5 is probably a little more likely than 5-7. So this is one of those ones where if you get it at 6, I would bet the over, because I think they probably land 6 and push, or maybe have a better chance to get you over at 7. But if it's 6.5, I would play under. Or you can place over 6 and bring it back with a little bit of under 6.5 if you want to start really getting sneaky here. And then if you're under 6.5 and over 6 for bigger, if they go 6-6, you bring a little chunk back on your under 6.5 and push 1. If they do get to 7, you lose that smaller under 6.5, but get the over 6. That's kind of how I would think of it, which means now we're dicing things up and looking at laying a lot to make a smaller profit. I don't think there's a ton there, but that would be my take on them.
The weekly Route 3 to 93, Mr. Julian Edlow. You can follow him at Julian Edlow, at DraftKings, at DK Sportsbook, at DK Live. Catch his podcast at the Unreasonable Odd Podcast. Always a pleasure, Jules. Have a great week. We'll be following you, and I'll be rooting for your Braves tonight.
Yes, our Braves, of course, Jeff. Thank you. Have a good week, man.
You too. Take care. The one and only Julian Edlow. If you're not following, please do. And listen, guys, if you have a DraftKings app and you can wager on DraftKings, reach out to him. If you don't see something there, ask him. He's the guy that reaches out to them. Say, hey, can we add this? Is it possible we can get this? I mean, listen, I know everyone likes to window shop. I get all that. I get a million questions a week. Hey, where do you shop? Where do you watch lines? I got more numbers than 9X. I swear to God, it looks like NASA back here. But if you're looking for a huge, huge prop market, if you're looking to parlay this with this and this, ask Julian. Go over, even if you can't bet DraftKings, download the app and then hit Sportsbook. Go to the Sportsbook. At least you can get an idea of what they're offering, because they're offering a ton. They'll be the first mobile app up and running here in Massachusetts whenever we get to go officially live. I initially said January 1st, 2023. Last week he said November 1st. Maybe we'll meet in the middle and it'll be December 1st. So with that said, 1:30 at 2 o'clock, I'm going to be here with Riley. We're going to get a midday market report / closing bell. We're going to go over today's slate in MLB. get everyone set up to go to the pay window then. And tomorrow is Wednesday. We'll be back with Andrew McGinnis at 1 o'clock. And if that changes to Thursday at 10:30, we will obviously reach out and tell you guys. So if you are wagering, please do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number. Ask for help. Why? I care. Julian cares. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. He's gone, but he was here, Julian Edlow at Julian Edlow. We wish everyone a blessed morning. Have a great afternoon, and we shall see you soon.